Oh, we're rolling.
We are rolling.
We are rolling. Welcome back to Imagine That. My name is Zach. I am the general manager here at Imagine Tours and Travel, and joined with me today is...
I am Brian Roth. I am one of the operations representatives. We handle the logistics and anything that our passengers need in order to just prepare for their upcoming journey.
You are the much nicer face and voice that people get to listen to and see than me. There's a reason.
The two of us.
Yeah, there's a reason that I just stick to emails.
Well, you know, Tim is a little better looking and a little better sounding than I am. So sorry Tim couldn't be here, but I'll try my best to keep up.
Yeah. Instead, today you are joined by two people that are extremely jet lagged because we just got back Sunday morning. What day is morning?
I don't think there's a such thing as morning and night
No.
when you've been traveling for a day or so.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock here, which means it's 10 p.m. in Greece.
We're still feeling like at 10 p.m.
Yeah, it still feels like we should be going to the buffet to grab dinner.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a crutch right now.
A little bit. So anything that we say that just seems kind of silly, it's because we're feeling it.
Yeah, and then of course Rick and Tim are not here because they are actually preparing for their trip next week. I believe they're going to Germany.
Yeah, I think it's a river cruise.
Yeah.
They want to see maybe the Rhine River or one
That
of those
sounds
rivers. They'll be doing I think a 9-day river cruise.
Yep. So they're finishing up some things in the office before they head out. So you're stuck with us again, or at least me again. Brian's a new face and probably better than me.
I'll try not to disappoint.
So just to kind of talk about what we're going to talk about today, we actually went on a Greece trip together. So we saw Athens, not Thessaloniki, Athens, Crete, Patmos, Ephesus or Kusadasi,
Santorini.
Yeah. So we did like our highlights tour. So this was a 4-night Aegean cruise. It was with Celestial on the Celestial Discovery, but I didn't know leading up to the tour that this was actually your first ever cruise.
It was my first ever cruise, and my wife was with me as well, and as well as your wife. And neither of us, my wife and I, have been on a cruise at all, so we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We were just kind of ready to have an adventure and see what happens.
Yeah. Now, for context, I've done several cruises, and I took my wife actually for our anniversary on her first cruise back in March. So she kind of had an idea of what to expect. And then when we had dinner with you and your wife, you guys were like, yeah, we've never actually done this before.
Never been on a cruise yet.
So it was an interesting trip, to say the least. So, like, obviously, I know that we told you guys a lot of things, but, like, what were some of the things that you kind of, like, went into this either, like, scared about or excited about? Or, like, what were you thinking when we said, hey, you're going on a 4-night cruise to Greece?
Yeah, so for me, I was mostly excited, honestly.
Okay.
The idea of being able to see all of the different Greek isles is amazing. I didn't really know what to expect in regards to, okay, what's it going to be like on the sea? So there was a little bit of trepidation there of, am I going to get my sea legs? Am I going to be able to manage? Am I going to feel seasick at all at any point? There was a little bit of just the unknown. So in regards to expectations going in, it was mostly excitement. A little bit of curiosity as to how it was all going to play out, but ultimately, in regards to kind of what we actually experienced while there, it was, first off, I was very happy that I'm not one, I guess, to get seasick. At no point.
I do get seasick.
Well, and I did notice that even in the duty-free shop that's on the cruise, they sell Dramamine.
For good reason.
So anyone who would get seasick, it is available if you didn't remember to bring it in your suitcase. But fortunately, my wife and I never felt nauseous at any point. The first day, I was very
we're going
surprised.
to jump into it. Oh, yeah.
We're going to get right into so the first day happened to be extremely windy. To the point that one of the crew members actually said it only gets this windy maybe 3 days out of an entire year.
And of course, that's the day that we're sailing. Yeah.
So it was interesting to have that much wind on the very first day. We laughed at ourselves as we tried to, as much as we could keep ourselves standing, trying to get our luggage over to the luggage area.
That was a hoot.
Yeah, but the disembarkment went well. We had great crew that took good care of us as far as, they had no doubts about just how it would still be a wonderful trip to be able to enjoy, even with, having some waves and winds.
I like how you say some.
Some waves and winds. There was a bit of the waves going on, it took a little bit of getting used to, because as you're walking, you kind of find
you're moving
yourself
with the ship. Yeah,
moving with the ship. But then that only lasted just the first day, and even on that first day, I think more of us, as I walked around the ship with you, and as we saw other folks walking around and getting acclimated to the boat, we were more just laughing at ourselves and how, as you're walking, you're trying to get yourself stable, and you're kind of pressing up against walls to make sure that you can stabilize yourself. But yeah, once we got out there and actually on our way to the first port, it was wonderful. We had a great time, and got right into dinner and entertainment and all the things that are offered on board.
Yeah, I just want to say, I chose not to in good faith. But there is a picture of you in like the Michael Jackson leaning forward pose.
I was leaning quite a bit.
I thoroughly debated putting that in, and I was like, you know what? The people probably don't need to see that. We'll save it for the next stream.
It was very windy.
It was quite the embarkation, to say the least. I've never seen one of those before. Typically, when you do a cruise, and like the guy said, this is like 3 times a year, and I think he said that this was like the second one.
Right.
So probably later in the year, October, November-ish is when we'll see like the third situation like this. But essentially, like, luggage is flying everywhere. The boat is like kind of tipped. And so when they're coming out of the port, they're actually backing out. Most situations, like, you kind of do like a little spin around, and then the front of the boat is what leaves port. This time they just kind of backed us out. So it was a little weird. Not many of our groups ever get to experience that, but this was a fun sailing because we went from a Monday through a Friday. Most of our typical sailings are Friday through Sunday. So most people that are watching this, or, if they haven't done one yet and they're getting ready to, they're probably doing a 3-night sailing. They go a little bit smoother than some of the 4 nights. But it was an experience, to say the least. But I will say, it only got better from there, because from there is actually where we started our trip. And I will say, Celestial is a little ambitious, but they're the only cruise line that visits as many ports in one sailing than any of the others. I mean, there's another cruise line that we don't really work with. We've used them in the past, but they're kind of like a pioneer in their field. But before we even did that, we actually flew in 2 days early, 1 day early?
About a day early. We flew into Athens.
Yep. And so we did the Plaka, we explored. I know that your wife and you both wanted traditional Greek food, so we actually went to the Plaka. Funny story, but not funny story, I guess. I found out after you guys went to Corinth at the end of the trip that we actually took a wrong turn to get to the Plaka, so we took the 20-minute route. In reality, it should have taken us 5 minutes to get there.
Well, I just like to take the scenic route because there's so much to see.
See, I can get away with that because you don't know better.
That's right.
So we took a couple photos of our trip to kind of give you guys a visual. So we'll do a little bit of a visual tour of this is kind of what we were looking at, and then you guys can see it now. So this is kind of what the Plaka looks like. So when we talk about that, that is the shopping district. So behind the people there, you can see there's storefronts. There on the left side of the screen, there's photos, there's art, there's a bunch of different things. But what's notably prominent is the food. So you have different street vendors selling gyros. Gyros, yeah. I can never pronounce it right.
He sounds thoroughly American.
I sound thoroughly. Well, I don't know what gives it away more, the accent or the ball cap.
Yes.
So, but yeah, this is a very traditional setting. I know that you and your wife found quite a few souvenirs for your family here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we loved the shopping. It was, and just the atmosphere as well. Athens is a very, very busy city. It's we learned that is the highest population city, and it actually houses half of the population of all of Greece.
Which is
wild.
It
is just about half the population. So of the 10 million people in Greece, a little under 5 million live right there in Athens. So very busy streets, but a great environment. Just has kind of that electric buzz that you love when you're touring around and looking at all the different shops. Got our gyro, which was delicious.
Very
It was
good.
Chef's kiss.
Even though we went to the wrong restaurant.
There is no wrong restaurant.
There
They're
is
all that
none.
good.
No, it was good.
So
it was
we,
good.
we enjoyed it thoroughly, and then did all the shopping as well, looking around at everything from T-shirts and sweatshirts and clothing of all the different types to the knickknacks and toys and such that you would get for kids, grandkids, nephews.
We actually
nieces.
picked up some toys, yeah.
We picked up some toys and knickknacks for kids and nephews and nieces and such, and yeah.
Our bags weighed more coming back than they did going.
That is one thing. If you pack a 50-pound bag on the way there, I hope you're okay with letting go of some things. Because on the way home, it'll be about 55 or 60.
Yeah, when Caleb and I went to Israel, there were some socks that I left because I was like, I'm way over my limit. I was trying to pack everything in, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna leave.
I purposefully underpacked one of my suitcases. We had a 45er and a 35, so I've got a 10-pound room that I can bring home souvenirs, and I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. So then, kind of picking up our tour, we actually went to the Olympic Stadium, which we didn't get to go inside and visit. I'm a little bummed about that, but we were on a very quick crunch because we had dinner plans
Yes.
But this is one of those sites that all of our groups get to see. So we actually did kind of a private city tour. You didn't get to experience the full hustle and bustle that we see,
Right.
which there's pros and cons to that, but we got to see the changing of the guard at the last minute, and then obviously the Olympic Stadium. We got to see. We drove past the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, Constitution Square,
President's House,
which not something that we typically get to see on trips, but cool nonetheless. And then from there, we made a special trip to the Acropolis, or otherwise known as the Parthenon. It's one of those weird ones. I'm not going to get too technical, but every town kind of does have an Acropolis.
But not every town has a Parthenon.
Not every town has a Parthenon. And what was your thought seeing it? You've seen the pictures. I mean, obviously, here's a picture on the screen.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's interesting about when you travel is we all often know what to expect in regards to the big tourist sites. If you're going to Rome, you know what the big things are in Rome.
Sure.
When you go to Greece, you know what the big things are. When you go to Israel, you know what the big things are that you're going to expect to see. But to be there, obviously, first and foremost, the size, actually standing next to things of that size, seeing these pillars that were hand carved thousands of years ago that just tower over you was breathtaking. So that was something that, and even if you can imagine it being big, imagine that.
Imagine that, yeah.
To see it in real life, to see just the scale and the amount of labor and the amount of time that they had to spend, putting that kind of expert skill into crafting these things was breathtaking. It really was. Plus, of course, Acropolis basically means it's the top of the city. It's kind of what that word means. So the view is stunning because everywhere you look,
it's a new view of the city. It's quite literally picture perfect. I know that's the big saying, but truly, I don't know that there's any other way.
And of course, I'm sure everyone who has ever visited the beach or ever visited a mountain and you take a picture of it and then you go home and you look at your pictures, you go, man, it just doesn't do it justice.
No.
There's no way that looking at this picture could possibly give the kind of feeling that I had from standing there and seeing it in person. It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, and it's wild. Our guide was really nice. She explained a bunch of different little things about the Parthenon and the technical sides of it. In the previous slide, there were the statues of the women, and she explained those aren't the real statues. The real statues are actually in the museum, and then one of them is actually in the British Museum. So there's a whole lot. But my wife and I actually at the end of the trip went and found those statues. When I tell you they are bigger than life, that is an understatement. We stood next to one of the statues, and I wish that I would have taken a picture. It's 2.5 of me. and the picture, it doesn't look that big. From a distance, maybe it looks like it's the height of a person and a half. No, those are easily 12, 15 feet tall.
Wow.
So it's wild. Pictures do not do this place justice. And for anyone that has visited, you understand that. And there's so much more that's being uncovered as, time progresses. They were explaining to us, they've recently started taking some of the old pillars and redoing them. They're trying new laser technology to clean the old stuff. There's so much that's being done. It's wild.
And also, speaking to both the tour guide as well as people maybe that have been in the past, they talk about the fact that they're continuously doing these digs, and they're continuously doing these restoration projects. So each time that they come back and visit, there's more progress that's been made, and that was really interesting
Exactly.
too. Even a picture that you take. If you take another picture
Sure.
a year later, it might be a very different picture.
Well, and it's funny. Like, I'm not trying to foreshadow, but I went with Caleb also on another trip where we went to Ephesus, and they were doing a bunch of reconstruction and trying to like reconfigure some of the pillars at the Library of Celsus. I think I'm saying that right, but when we went, the scaffolding was gone, the statues were all fixed. Like, it's crazy. That was back in October of last year. We went in April of this year. It's a 6-month difference,
Right.
and so much has changed in those 6 months.
Yeah, so I mean, even just the fact that you're able to visit in a time where they are literally putting history back together right in front of us is just it's got a lot of wow factor, to say the very least.
Oh, yeah. But obviously, the trip did not just end in Athens. We actually embarked on our cruise, which we do all of our cruising at this point in time with Celestial Cruises. They are a Greek-based operator. They've been around for goodness knows how long. At one point, they were called Lewis Cruises. Now they're called Celestial. You may have sailed on the Crystal, which is a ship that has recently been decommissioned, or the Olympia as of last year. This year, they have a new ship called the Discovery. And actually, when we went on our ship, they had just gone and done a whole refurbishment. They added 47 new cabins, brand new suites, refreshed all of the common areas. So the lounges, the bars, the entertainment, everything has gotten a new coat of paint essentially. It was very nice, above board. It was cool. It was cool to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things actually that you had mentioned in regards to, again, it's my first cruise. I don't know what to expect. And so one of the things you mentioned to me is that, the Celestial, both the Discovery as well as the Journey are two ships that they use, one for the 3-night and one for the 7-night, 3 and 4 nights. So us being on a 4-night cruise, we were on the Discovery. And you'd mentioned that it's not as big as some of the other cruise ships. Nowadays they've got cruise ships that are just enormous. But a lot of those cruise ships is because you're going to be on the boat the majority of the time. You're sailing almost the entirety of your trip, and so there has to be a lot more to do on the ship.
Sure.
Versus a smaller ship, but it is doing, like you said, multiple ports at times. And so one of the ways that you kind of described it to me is there are some where the sailing is kind of the point, and there are some where the destination is the point.
Yep.
And with these cruises, the destinations are absolutely breathtaking. They're beautiful. So to go to, I think our first stop was Mykonos.
Yeah, Mykonos, which we've got pulled up now.
There's a picture of Mykonos there.
Yeah.
Just absolutely gorgeous city. And so when we go into port at Mykonos, you can hop on a bus that'll take you kind of to the
to the town area.
To the town area, to the city center, and there are shops galore. Again, breathtaking views. I mean, you can see right there. It's right on the sea, to where you can, as you get up into high points, you're overlooking just
the whole Aegean,
the entirety of it. It's just gorgeous, and the fact that everything is the iconic white. White houses and white shops.
It actually resembles the pictures.
It really does. I mean, to go there, it almost feels, I don't even know how to say it. It almost feels kind of like a fantasy, if you will, because it feels surreal. It feels like, wow, this really is exactly like all of those pictures.
Yeah, Mykonos is one of those cool spots because obviously, I don't want to give too much away because the point is, you want to go on these trips and you want to hear it from yourself. But the story of why the homes and the buildings are whitewashed is oh, this makes sense now. It's not just because of this, it's because of that. And so when you get to hear that, obviously Mykonos is not the only island that has whitewashed buildings. There's Mykonos, there's Crete, there's Patmos, there's Santorini. They all have whitewashed buildings, and they all have very similar reasons, but some of them differ a bit. But, Mykonos, obviously, as we found out, is the second most expensive of the islands.
That is true.
Santorini coming in at the first. So it shows, Some of the shops are beautiful. I think you guys picked up a piece of artwork.
We did. We actually picked up some art.
But
Handmade art in Mykonos. It was just, it was very authentic to the Mykonos experience. And so they have all of these amazing little shops where if you're looking for things to remember your journeys, they are so unique. You're never going to find them anywhere else in the world. You're never going to find them at the local
farmer's market.
Farmer's market, yeah.
You'll find some cool stuff, but it's never
unique.
the same. So, but yeah, so Mykonos, great island, where that first shot was shown to where you're seeing the boat, that's like 15 minutes total. Then that kind of concludes the first night. The next night actually takes us to Kusadasi, which is the port name, and there's the windmills of Mykonos.
Yeah.
I love the windmills. But this is Ephesus, and so this is our group. We actually got to join a group from California. They had, I think, 99 people, 98?
It was in the high 90s. Yeah, it was 3 buses and incredibly just fun group to be around. We were very blessed that they let us kind of tag along with them. So thank you to Pastor Dudley and to all of those at Shepherd Church. It was a wonderful adventure to be able to share with you.
Yeah, and for those of you that are actually watching on Facebook right now, we posted the entire time that we were there, so you've probably seen this photo already. So if you do follow us on Facebook, then sorry that we're resharing it with you. But if you're watching on YouTube, obviously be sure to like us on Facebook because that is where we post a lot of these updates. But we were on the blue bus, and the blue bus, in my opinion, was the fun bus.
The fun bus.
Granted, I think it's also because we had the pastor with us, and he had a good time. But we got to see the library. We have a few slides that showcase kind of like what Ephesus is. This is the field actually that is kind of to the right of the library. It's a beautiful setting. It's a great opportunity to sit down and read from Scripture. Pastor Dudley actually got to do that with us. So we've got a video that I'm kind of working on behind the scenes, and maybe we'll have it pushed on our YouTube sometime later this week or next. But it was a really great message about, just what Paul would have preached at that point in time and why this was such a monumental site. So I love Ephesus. The crowds were huge. That's actually the library that I was talking about.
Yes,
So when Caleb and I went, that entire right side, so it's kind of divided into 4 sections. The right side was completely covered in scaffolding. This trip it wasn't. So it made for great pictures.
It was pretty much done.
Yeah, but I mean, this is on, I think this was a Tuesday, and you can just see how busy the crowd was. And this was in the morning because actually in the afternoon, then we went to Patmos. So, actually, forgot. We went rug shopping too.
Yes, we did.
And that's a story for another day, I think. We could have an entire segment about rugs and the Turkish rug shops. They're so cool. And they have really cool apple cider flavored drinks.
It's like an apple tea. It's a warm apple tea, which is nice. They're extremely accommodating, super friendly. So they'll offer you, to have some apple tea, and they tell you the history of. It's thousands of years old technique that they use. It is unique specifically
and it's an art
to that area, and it is an art. And you can see obviously on those pictures the detail, and they're all handmade. So
they're not like what you buy at Badcock or I think that's more of a local brand. What's something bigger Ashley?
Yeah, Ashley Home Goods.
Home Goods, Rooms to Go. Some of the bigger stores,
definitely.
You're not going to find these rugs there.
Handmade art, that is also something that you live in and on, is a pretty special thing. And it also, of course, supports their local shops and their local economies. And so it's a really neat thing. Even if somebody didn't want to buy a rug and they said, I have no interest in buying anything, it's still such a cool story to hear how they make it. They actually show you. They show you how they get the silk for their silk rugs. So there are a lot of really, really neat things. Again, don't want to spoil too much because it certainly is something that you want to see firsthand. But it is a really neat experience to see how they actually do that handmade over months of labor.
And some of them take years. They lay out all these rugs in front of you, and it's a surreal experience. I would just say, this isn't a sales pitch. This isn't anything. You just have to see it for yourself. It's one of those, if you go on a trip and that's the only reason you go, it's worth it. But so after that, we actually got back on the boat. People were talking about their experience, and then we went to Patmos. Now, I personally think this is the most beautiful of the Greek islands.
As far as the view,
Oh man.
it's hard to beat that. It is phenomenally gorgeous.
So, small disclaimer, to actually get to Patmos, you have to take a tender boat. So very similar to what you'll do in Santorini. So this is actually a shot from the tender pulling into kind of like the bay of Patmos. And it's just the water, you see the pictures and you're like, surely it's not that blue. But
Right.
Patmos is not a tourist town. Like Celestial Cruises and Marai Cruises, those are the only two cruise lines that go to this island. So if you want to see Patmos, you'll have to go on one of their sailings. But if you want to see like crystal clear, perfectly blue water, this is where you go. And so I think the next slide is actually like a top-down view
Yeah. And
of
that was
the
at
city.
I believe that was when we were at St. John's Monastery.
Yes.
If I remember right.
Yep.
Which interesting there too. I mean, you've got history. Obviously, Patmos is where St. John the Revelator wrote Revelation. It's where he was at towards the end of his life, and so they tell you about that. It's one of those things too where even if you're not, there's a little bit of everything for everyone.
Absolutely.
Because if you're really into that history, and if you're really, excited about seeing those specific sites, if you enjoy seeing the churches, the monasteries, things like that, they're beautiful. And if it's something where you're like, well, I don't care as much about that particular history, but it is such a beautiful, beautiful island that, I mean, you can see the view there on that picture.
Oh, literally.
It's stunning. So there's a little bit of, there's just the natural beauty and also the rich history.
Yeah. And the monastery itself is also beautiful. I mean, obviously it is...
The paintings.
The murals, where you're actually not allowed to take photos of the murals. So, like, there's a section for photos, and then there's a section not for photos. So, just out of respect, we chose not to take any photos. But, like, the parts that you can see are beautiful. I mean, this was like a nice little domed church-like structure on the top floor of the museum. The museum also is one of those spots you're not supposed to take photos. So we kind of have to like try to imagine what it would look like. You have to imagine what that would look like. Imagine that, yeah. But it is...
But it is something that I think...
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things that... if you're lucky enough to be on one of these cruises that does go to Patmos, you're one of the few that get to.
Exactly, because it's not a tourist town. It does not cater to tourists, unlike Santorini and Mykonos, where you have shops and you have restaurants. Patmos doesn't have that. So when you show up, you're going for the sights, you're going for the scenery. Absolutely. You're not going for the razzle and dazzle. But
the razzle dazzle is the scenery. It
yes,
really is. I mean, It's one of those things that when you see it and you just kind of take it in and you just take a moment to even just have some time to kind of meditate as you look over everything, it's a very unique experience that you're not going to get elsewhere.
Yeah. I do think, though, that one of the islands that highlights that best would actually be Rhodes, because that's actually where we went next. And you get a mix of, like, the scenery that, obviously... Paul came to Rhodes. The extent of it, we're not fully sure. But when you get to Rhodes, it's like the perfect blend of history meets a little bit of tourism.
Yes.
Because like we actually take a lot of our groups to Lindos. It's one of those like it's not always an included excursion. So if you do sign up for a trip where it is included, you have to wake up, you have to get on the bus, you have to go, because if you miss it, there's no way to describe what you missed out on. It is picture perfect. And so what we're looking at here, this is the inside of Patmos, the monastery, and then that is the Acropolis of Lindos.
Right.
So, like you said earlier, Acropolis, highest point in the town. The town would be the whitewashed buildings. You guys are starting to see a theme probably in Greece and the Greek islands, but you actually didn't get to go to the top.
I was trying to see if you would refresh my memory if this is the one where my shoes, I did not wear non-slip shoes, and they were slippery because it had rained that morning, unfortunately. So now that being said, where you first get off the bus, though, it's still a very high elevated area overlooking the rest of Lindos, which, I mean, even the view that I got was stunning as well. But you got a little bit higher than I
got a little bit
higher.
Your
shoes were better than mine.
So this is the Acropolis. There's Pastor Dudley and Blue Bus again, but this is kind of what you will see. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is not as picturesque as, the Parthenon in Athens. the Acropolis setting here was not as well taken care of over the years by, crusaders and attackers and just locals even. But it's a cool setting. This is kind of where we speculate that maybe, Paul would have gone by on his way back to Jerusalem. The part Lindo specifically, it's loose, Some historians say this is exactly where he would have been. And actually, there's the Bay of St. Paul, So we think he went here to this town of Lindos. But
there's a lot of oral tradition there, and I think there's a lot of value to oral tradition because it becomes oral tradition by the fact that it's a repeated story. While we can't put a ton of weight on oral tradition from a standpoint of the historical, how much of a percentage chance is this that is historically accurate. The simple probability that this is a stop that makes a lot of sense is high on the probability. Yeah. And then, of course, to add to that the oral tradition surrounding it, certainly there's a good chance that he was there.
Yeah. So it's a cool site. I mean, geographically speaking, if you're making your path and you're coming from, say, Turkey, and then you're going by the islands and you're on your way to Israel, this makes sense. This is like the most northern point of the island. So I think this is where Paul would have went. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is it. Right there, that's the bay. It is beautiful. Like, this is where he would have stopped if he came here to Rhodes, which we know he did. So it's just a matter of where did the boat dock. But yeah, the Bay of St. Paul is beautiful. This is actually, inside of the walls of the Acropolis. Obviously, these are the highest points of the city. This is where a lot of your city life happens. This very fortified. You can kind of see there's a lot of inspiration to like modern day castles because at the top you have like the little lookouts. This is where they would have maybe had cannons or something similar for that time period. Obviously, as time goes on and you progress, the technology advances. So they probably had cannons at some point. Make it cool.
Times.
Now, unfortunately, we went to Crete. But it was a national holiday. It was actually Greece's Independence Day. So we didn't get to see anything. It was cool. We got to go off. I think we went to Starbucks.
Yes.
But in the afternoon, we actually went to Santorini. Now, I have not shown you this photo. You do not know that it exists.
Oh, goodness.
Is
this incriminating?
No.
Good.
Okay. So this specific photo here, this is like a mid-size ship. So for perspective, at the very end, the last slide that we'll show is what our boat looks like. This is a mid-size ship.
Okay.
It cannot make port in Patmos. It can barely make port in Crete. It can make port in, Rhodes, but the bigger the ship, the fewer stops it can make. And so it was wild when we pulled into Santorini. I got excited because I'm a cruise buff. I love boats. Seeing this, I realized very quickly, I'm like, oh wow, we are in a very comfortable size boat, but I had boat envy.
Oh, okay.
So.
But again, like you said, I mean, because of the smaller ship, we were able to have a more port intensive, if you will, itinerary. I mean, we got to really focus on going to the places that you want to see rather than just seeing it from a distance on the boat. So, being able to make some of those ports that other ships can't was certainly worth.
It was
in my opinion, worth having a reduced size ship for sure.
Sure, and I mean, Celestial is very aggressive with like their pitch of how you actually see all these sites in such a quick period. In the morning you go to one site, in the afternoon you go to the other. So we went to Ephesus one morning, and then we went to Patmos in the afternoon, and then we went to Crete that morning, and then we went to Santorini in the afternoon. So it's very quick. We do have programs that are more fleshed out if you're wanting to like really spend time.
Sure.
But this is a great way to see everything, to see Santorini. Like, this is Fira up top, this is the bay. To the left, it's not pictured, but that's kind of where you'd see like the blue domes. That's, I never remember how they pronounce it. It's Oya? The villages, Oya? Yeah.
I think so.
And it's where you see like the Blue Dome Church. It's in all the pictures when you Google Santorini. That's the spot. But Fira is actually, it's the main city. It's the, I'm at a loss for words. What is the main city?
The capital.
The capital? The capital, yeah. It's the capital of Santorini. That's what I was looking for. So we got to go here. We got to shop. We actually got to eat. picked up a nice slice of pizza, which is very American of us.
But it was so good, and it was
so good.
I thought it was a little different than America.
Yeah.
But they also had incredible other things, pastas and desserts, and
Sure.
all sorts of other very Greek food if you want something authentic, or if you just kind of missing home and you want a slice of pizza, then they had that too.
Yeah. So this is the ship, and this is really what I want to focus on for kind of the remainder of our time. This is the Celestial Discovery. This is the newest boat in Celestial's fleet. And a little bit of backstory, this boat is actually a repurposed boat. It is a very European-style boat. They have another one called the Journey, which Caleb and I did in October. That is for their 7-night sailings, like what you had said at the beginning. This is the larger of the two, though. You corrected me right before we went live, and you were like, this is the larger boat.
This is.
And it's larger in the fact that they actually... I think they've now exceeded 1,300 cabins. I think it's like 1,352, 53. I'd have to double check that number, but it's a lot of cabins. The other boat is like 1,200 cabins. This had something for everyone. I mean, the size of the ship, like you'd mentioned, obviously, they're much smaller boats. They're bigger than ferries, which is funny because that's how Celestial got started, in like the 1930s, I think 1935. That's where they got their start, is they did ferries. They would go and do like these day trips to like Santorini and Crete and Mykonos. And the Crystal, funny enough, we talked about it throughout our trip. That was one of their kind of like prize ships. Unfortunately, it's been since retired. I think it was just sent to the scrapyard. Today's Tuesday, yesterday.
Oh, wow.
So... if you ever sail on the Crystal, you'll never see it again. I know some people are going to be bummed by that statement, but it's the unfortunate reality of the cruise world. They only last so long. But this ship, compared to like Royal Caribbean's new Icon of the Seas, is like a fraction. Like this is maybe like a boat that would go out of Tampa Bay. So for reference, we have the Skyway Bridge. It's tall, but it's not tall enough for like boats newer than like the early 2000s, like 2004, 2005. But this is it's a beautiful ship. I didn't go into it with like the highest expectations because, I'm used to like MSC, Norwegian, but this is a really nice boat.
It was a very nice boat. You can tell that the experience that they wanted to give to their passengers was such that, yes, we know it's going to be port heavy. It's going to be mostly about the excursions. But while you're on the ship, we want you to enjoy your experience. While you're here, we want you to be able to enjoy the different things that you would with any other cruise line.
Yeah, and because at the end of the day, it still is a cruise. I mean, when you go into your cabins, it feels like a normal cruise.
It was a very nice cabin.
I loved my cabin. We both had balconies. We upgraded because,
They do have upgrades available.
Yep.
They've got the, they call them the Cosmos. So first and foremost, we have to say that in case anyone's wondering, we don't do interior rooms. We always do exterior, so you have ocean view.
Absolutely.
But you do also have the option to upgrade to have a balcony rather than a window.
Yep.
And then they also, for those that maybe are traveling with a larger family and you wanted to do a suite, they have a grand suite upgrade now. That's actually very recent, I want to say in the last 6 months to a year.
Yeah, it's brand new. It was funny enough, I think this was like one of the first sailings where it was actually available. And there's two of them. They're actually right above the bridge. Yeah. So in the very front of the boat, right on top, you have a view of everything.
For those, maybe if it's a family of 4 that's traveling together, it can accommodate 4 guests rather than the typical 2 guest room. So some people like to upgrade to the grand suite to have,
plenty of space
on top of the balcony, a little extra space, and then extra beds for the kiddos or for your travel partners. And it's pretty neat what they've done with the cabins. The Cosmos balcony suite was beautiful.
I loved the balcony.
Absolutely.
I don't know about you. Every day I would go out and I would just look at the view. I mean, I took a bunch of videos.
We took a lot of pictures and videos. Yes, we did.
Like probably for the next month, we're just going to be posting photo and video of this trip, this boat, this cruise, this experience. And speaking of experience, what did you think about the food? Because I myself, every time I read an out of office, it has something to do with food.
Sure.
There's a reason that we have the desk here, and it's like about mid-chest high. It's because mid-chest and lower, you can tell we like our food.
We like food.
Yeah.
So with the food, one of the things that I loved about, you've got two different options. There's one is a buffet all the time.
Yep.
The other is buffet during breakfast and lunch, but then in the dinner time, you can actually have a restaurant where you can sit down and
Be served, yeah.
And so we've tried both, of course. I mean, that's what you do. So with the buffet, obviously because it is a buffet,
Yes.
options, having tons and tons and tons of options because
For everyone,
no
too.
one exactly no one's going to like everything, but everyone will like something.
Yes.
And so having all of those different options and knowing that maybe today. It's been one of those days. It was a beautiful day out. The sun was shining. I'm kind of just, I could go for something cold and crisp, and so I wanted a nice cold salad and fruit. They're fresh fruit.
If you want a heavy burger,
if you want a burger, if you want a gyro, if you want something that is a little bit more just comfort food.
Yeah.
Then you can go for the kebabs.
The
Oh my
kebabs.
goodness, the
Oh my
souvlaki was
gosh.
phenomenal.
We had kebabs.
We did.
Practically every day.
Almost every day. We had at least 2 or 3 kebabs on
absolutely.
our plate, regardless of what I was eating. There was going to be a kebab on my plate.
If they change the all-you-can-eat policy, it's probably going to be because of us.
That's
'cause
right.
We ate our way through
I
the week.
apologize in advance if they discontinue.
Yeah.
Because we certainly did take advantage of the option
We
to
did.
just eat
Try everything, eat, yeah.
We did. And so, of course, then, they've got desserts. Tons and tons of different options for desserts.
And they have the quick deli. So if you want something like real fast, they have that.
Yeah. So, and then of course we did do an actual dining experience where we sat down one of the evenings, one or two of the evenings, we sat down and actually put in an order, and they've got a four course meal. You get your appetizer, you get your main course and the dessert and everything. So it was really nice, even just if you want to dress up. It's not required by any means.
Sure. But some people did.
They do, yeah. And they had a kind of a captain's night where if you wanted to dress up, you could. Of course, I did see 1 or 2 of those tuxedo T-shirts. So I don't know if that counts.
I don't know how they got in. I think one of them was actually in our group too. So I'm going to do a follow-up email after this and ask.
Needless to say, it's not a dress requirement, but it is something that you can enjoy if you want to. So that was really neat as well, to be able to do a nice button-up shirt and have a dinner where someone would serve, and you could just enjoy we were sitting right by the window.
We had a perfect view.
We did.
We're doing like the sail away from Mykonos, and you're watching the town. They have all the lights on. It's something everyone has to see for themselves.
So stunning views while you have a great meal. You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, but if you do miss the views during dinner, you can actually see them from the karaoke lounge.
You can.
Which we may have partaken in
may or may
couple
not
times.
have partaken in the karaoke. I would say I killed it.
Yes.
But I think it's more that it sounded like something died.
Which, you know what? What happens in Greece stays in Greece.
So
which
you
is
can
okay.
get on that microphone and you can tell everybody that, hey, look, this is what you're going to get tonight. And
You can
like it or love it.
You can sing songs from Mamma Mia. You can reenact, what they were doing in Greece. You can sing some of your favorites. Like I know they had Bon Jovi.
Of course.
They have everything. There was one night we were singing Miley Cyrus.
Of course.
There was something for everyone. And actually, several of the people in our group got up and sang. I will not disclose names. Obviously, they probably did it because...
You know who you are.
Yeah.
You know.
And
we had a great time.
There was one gentleman.
shame.
He serenaded his wife. He was amazing. So if he ever watches this, dude, you have an amazing voice. That was fantastic. She got out on the dance floor with him.
They had a special moment. It was beautiful.
Yeah. They had... they kind of stole the show. They were the entertainment, and they have entertainment on the ship. Obviously, karaoke is one. They have shows. They're very similar to a Broadway production. I wouldn't say that it's up there with the likes of Wicked or The Lion King that you'll see in New York, but they're good. They have acrobatic shows, they have dancing, they have singing. Most of the nights they actually sing in English. So some nights they'll sing in the native tongues, but most of the time, obviously, they know that this is a North American market, and they do cater to that. So the entertainment was really good. I have no complaints.
I think if I had any complaint, it would be that it ended. because
Yeah.
then, you know,
And then we're here?
Then we have to go back to work.
Yeah, we're
It's a good
here.
thing I like my
So-
job, because it was hard to say goodbye.
Yeah.
It was an absolutely wonderful time. I mean, I really, truly, again, I went in going with no expectations because I've never done a cruise before.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, maybe it actually was to my benefit that I, rather than trying to compare it to other things, I let it be exactly what it was. I got to take in the sights, I got to take in the experience, the history, the biblical history,
Yes.
oh my goodness, and especially, you know, again, I know you highlighted Ephesus as being one of the highlights for you,
Yep.
and when you, you know, see the sites that, you know, Paul walked down this road and he spoke, you know, at these sites, and he was most likely in this exact spot. It connects you with Scripture in a way that, again, to be in the middle of it and to see the size and just the overwhelming, even to know, I live in America.
Yep.
The oldest things that we have are a couple hundred years
Yeah,
old, and
exactly.
they have
we have
things.
forts.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have
Yeah.
an Acropolis or a Parthenon or
sure.
a library. Well, we do have a library. We just
We
don't
have-
use it.
Yeah, but we don't
we
have
don't have-
libraries that were, you know,
Yeah.
3,000 years old and held scrolls.
Exactly.
So
you know,
to see those things was pretty phenomenal,
Yeah.
to say the least.
and it was a good experience. You know, all of our guides were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Even on the excursions, you know, you do get different guides for the excursions than you will with the rest of your trip. It's one of those, you know, I would recommend if you're not signed up for a trip yet to go ahead and just sign up for one. Look, it's a simple process. We do everything online. You can fill it out via paper. We have a bunch of tours on our website, www.ittworld.com. It's actually linked below, so if you're seeing this live or if you're watching this later, you can just visit this link. It's always this link. We have a ton of tours on our website. I want to say like probably half of our business is Greek Isle cruises. You know, I could go on and on, but I know we've been here for a minute, so we should probably wrap this up. You know, if anyone has questions, we can stay on for a couple minutes, but you should definitely join a Greece trip. That way, you can be like the person with all the stories at the church. You know, you can walk in that next Sunday and be like, look at all my photos.
That's right.
There's always that one person. I'm typically that person. My own pastor is like, why are you showing me photos of this? And I'm like, because you haven't gone yet.
Yeah.
So like, you need to go. And so I'm working on it.
Absolutely. And I will say this again, you know, for someone who it was a first cruise experience, I was very pleased. I enjoyed myself quite thoroughly. I know my wife as well. You know, we thoroughly enjoyed being on the cruise. We thoroughly enjoyed all of the different ports. But above and beyond that, because we kind of did a shortened version, the rest of the group that we met up with, they had several days of land touring as well, where they did a couple other sites that we aren't talking about today. So, you know, on our website, you can check out, you can browse all the different types of Greece tours we have. We have a lot of different options. You know, some of them, I think the typical one is normally 10 days with a 3-night
10
cruise.
days, yeah.
That's kind of the most popular. But there are some that are maybe 11 or 12 days. We've got some that are 3-night, 4-night, 7-night cruises. So
We may be working on new stuff too. So it's one of those, like you said earlier, if you haven't been, it's a great opportunity to go. If you have been, maybe try out one of our other programs. You know, our 4-night cruises, they go to Rhodes. You probably haven't been to Rhodes because if you've done the 3-night, it doesn't do it. Our 7-night cruise, you know, you have full days in Santorini and Mykonos and Crete, and it also does go to Rhodes. So it's one of those, you know, if you want a little bit more time for relaxing, you know, have an excursion in the morning and then the afternoon, you can sit on the boat and you can enjoy the view, you know, have a cup of coffee in hand. I know that we indulged in the coffee every
oh
day.
goodness, yeah,
That was my highlight.
It was the salted caramel.
Oh,
The salted caramel latte was just phenomenal.
Dunkin'
I'm a chai tea
Donuts
latte
doesn't
guy too.
compare.
I like teas, but yeah, that was well, and you need a salted caramel latte.
You do, yeah.
Because when you stayed up too late singing karaoke the night before, and you have an excursion planned in the morning, then you got to do something to give it a little pick me up.
yeah. Just saw a comment from Brenda. So I don't believe it's too late. What I would do, I believe Caleb is your operations person. After this, after we wrap up, either give our office a call, talk to Caleb and see if we do have any balconies available. I don't know the rough cost off the top of my head because it does vary. If you're in a double occupancy, you know, it's spread apart, the 2 people in the cabin. If you're in a single room, Obviously, it's a little bit more. I would definitely reach out to Caleb and see what he can do because personally speaking, I've stayed in both cabins. Having a balcony, especially in the mornings, when you do have your cup of coffee and you're drinking, like, for example, Anita said that she had a milkshake. If you have a milkshake...
Oh, those milkshakes were good.
Oh, my gosh. We did a milkshake. We did the Oreo milkshake.
We did the Oreo milkshake, absolutely.
But,
they did ice cream.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Take an Oreo milkshake, sit on your balcony in the morning, as you're cruising from...
Milkshake in the morning?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know.
I mean,
I
it's
milkshaked
milk.
in the afternoon.
You put milk in your
It's
coffee.
milk. It's milk.
Yeah, milk in the coffee, milk in a milkshake. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
One
it was
has
one day
more
we
sugar.
did 2 ports, and so the afternoon time, the sun was coming down. It was just beautiful
See?
skies. I sat on the balcony, and I just sat there just taking in the sunshine. It was quite nice. So I think typically speaking, and it's a rule of thumb, the way we handle most of our tours as far as upgrades and things like that, as far as timelines, one of the big things to always be cognizant of is when is your final payment going to be due for your tour. So if your final payment has already been made, sometimes we can still make it happen.
Yep.
If the final payment hasn't been made yet, I mean, it is almost certain that we'll be able to do the upgrade unless they're sold out.
Correct.
So it is based on availability, but I do know that particular ship, especially, they have a lot of balcony suites. And so it definitely is something worth asking. Send an email to your operations representative or give us a call. We're happy to take care of you in any way we can.
We want you to have, the experience of a lifetime. We don't just say it because it's a gimmick. It really is, you're going. If you do this once, you may as well enjoy it. So
absolutely
get that balcony room.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
Yeah, go big or go home.
Go to Greece.
Book the penthouse suite and have your Mamma Mia moment.
That's right. Have your Mamma Mia moment.
I don't
Sing
judge.
karaoke. If you're not singing karaoke, you're not having fun yet.
You are doing it wrong if you're not singing karaoke. Especially after you go to Patmos and you're like reliving the gospel.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're singing karaoke. It's a whole experience.
They even have
you
Disney
have to
songs.
do
Come
it
on.
to understand. Yeah, they do have Disney songs. Caleb may have sang one.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, on that bombshell, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching us on Facebook, be sure to like and follow us. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. It's a little different from Facebook. Facebook also changed their process. They don't actually save these videos, so if you do want to go back and rewatch this or send it to a friend that you're trying to convince to go on the cruise with you, send them the link from YouTube. We also send out recaps every Monday, so you're never going to miss out anything. But anything you want to add?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head other than, go to our website, look at what we have available, sign up for something. It's quick and simple, and if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Yep. If you can't find something, give us a call. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you guys so much.